Hello, and welcome to this week's Weather Studio Live. Just making some last minute notes, and I'm now ready to start. I'm Aidan McGiven.
Hi, and I'm Alex Burkill. We're both presenters and meteorologists here at the Met Office, and yeah, it's a thundery one that we've got coming up weekend-wise. Lots to cover.
Lots to talk about this week, and it's not necessarily about how hot it will get, although there is some heat in this week's forecast. We've been talking about heat waves a lot so far this summer. Reached the halfway point of summer so far this week, of course, St. Swithin's Day on the 15th of July. And now the main focus is on showers and thunderstorms over the next few days. So we'll have all that covered. You'll be heading up to the big screen to give us an in-depth guide to the thunderstorms.
Yeah, there have been loads of warnings issued and updated this morning, so including an amber one, which I will be talking about. That's for parts of the southeast tomorrow morning, so I'll be covering that. But before we start with the weather, what have you been up to this week?
Bits and bobs, putting the final touches on a video to do with the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation.
AMOC.
That is due to go out tomorrow, which is very exciting. We've been talking about that for a while. So we've been finishing that off. We've got a little tease, actually, for that, that we can either play now or we can play a little bit later on.
Should we play later on?
Yeah,
let's save it because people want to get to the thunderstorms.
I didn't tell Greg next door that I was going to... I didn't even tell myself that I was going to talk about it this early in the show. It just came out like that. So we'll leave that one until the end.
Yeah, I felt you told me just a few minutes ago that we were going to talk about it at the end, but that's fine.
I did say that.
That's fine. I've had a busy week as well. Claire, who usually does most of Channel 5 weather, she's been off this week, and so I've been doing a lot of Channel 5, a lot of Met Office bits and bobs. We've been very busy and lots to talk about, just the heat and also the thunderstorms, the wet weather that's coming through this weekend. A real change to the feel of things through this week. We got off to a bit of an unsettled start, and more unsettled weather to come. Also, yesterday I had the day off, and I took my son to his new school for the first time. He starts reception in September, and so that was nice to take him for his little settling in session. Got to meet his teachers. He is excited. He's really ready. He's ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I am. It'll be. I'm ready for him to, develop and to be out of the house a little bit more.
Yeah, great. And we've already had lots of questions in from you guys, and keep them coming in. We'll try and answer as many as possible. Thomas said it would be interesting if they bring one of the chief forecasters in for the discussion today. Otherwise, the conversation is just forecaster level. Bit rude, Thomas.
A little bit rude. Would have loved to have had a chief joining us today, but they're a bit busy. Like I said, they've been trigger happy.
Proper work.
Proper work, yeah.
Unlike just us forecasters.
Just nattering about the weather. No, they've been very busy issuing the warnings, and we have chief meteorologists here also watching the weather, making sure that everything's going to plan. So keeping an eye on the intense thunderstorms, because although the most severe weather is through this weekend, there are some intense thunderstorms around at the moment. We already have some warnings valid across the eastern parts of England. So, they're keeping on top of those. So, unfortunately, they're a little bit too busy to come talk to us today. But I hope that we give you enough information, enough insight that it's worth watching.
Tom Dixon, when is the next heat wave coming to the UK? Well, actually, Tom, if today's temperatures had occurred over 3 days in a row, it would technically be a heat wave in some parts of the UK. It's a bit of a different heat wave compared to the last few. There's a lot higher humidity, a lot more going on across the UK than just high pressure in place. But certainly today's a hot one. In the southeast, it's already 25 degrees. Those temperatures will rise a bit more in the next few hours. Could exceed 30 Celsius in some parts of the southeast. So it's a hot and humid one out there today. Not everyone's got the heat, but most of us have got the humidity. That's certainly noticeable, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, you're right. Today's temperatures will be at the heat wave level. Also, some places saw yesterday's temperatures exceed 27, 28. So 2 days of above the threshold, but unlikely that we're going to get that third day because of the thundery rain. But you're right, the humidity, that's a big driver of the intense thunderstorms that we're going to see through the next 24, 48 hours or so is the high humidity, and it's making it, again, quite uncomfortable for sleeping. it's so close, it's so muggy. How are you coping? Let us know in the comments, because both my kids are not enjoying it.
Yeah, I was uncomfortable last night, actually. I woke up several times. Speaking of heat waves, we had a question last week from Alan Jones about the source of our heat waves, the source of the hot air, because the 3 heat waves that we've talked about so far this summer, we've mentioned that the air source has typically come from the North Atlantic, or some instances Greenland, and it's come around and it's basically been warmed by sinking air under an area of high pressure. So when you get high pressure, there are several factors that lead to high temperatures. One of the most important things is something called subsidence. That's where the air sinks under high pressure and becomes compressed, a bit like pumping up your bike. Compressed air heats up, and it can heat up at about 10 degrees per kilometre of descent. And so that's one of the most important factors. You could take quite cold air from Greenland and put it into an area of high pressure over the UK, and it just gets compressed and it heats up that way, and you end up with temperatures into the low or even mid-30s. And so we've talked about that being the main cause of the heat waves that we've seen so far this summer, and not air that comes up from Spain and North Africa.
Which is what people often think.
Yeah.
In the past, we often described the big cause of the heat waves. Well, we often saw the hot, wet air coming in, and that was a contributing factor, but...
It is a contributing factor, and I addressed this last week because I saw this question come in from Alan Jones last week, and I said there was a paper, I believe, looked at this, and I've since gone back and looked at the paper from 2019. I'll see if I can dig out the reference, actually. But it basically says that virtually all our heat waves, the main cause, the most important thing, is that subsidence, is that sinking air under high pressure. Even when we get some warm advections, what it's called, we get some hotter air coming up from the south. Even when that happens, the most important aspect is the sinking air under high pressure. So when you get hot air coming up from Spain or North Africa, it's basically preheating the air mass that then gets heated further by subsidence. So wherever you get your air from, the sinking and compressing under high pressure is the most important thing for causing high temperatures in the UK. The difference is when you get it from Spain and North Africa, it's already starting at a higher base level than when you get it from Greenland or the North Atlantic. But yeah, it's that compression under high pressure that causes the high temperatures in heat waves in the UK, which is interesting.
That is interesting, yeah. But when you have all the ingredients, that's when you get the extremely high temperatures.
Yeah, and another important factor, of course, which we've seen this summer is the dry ground, because that means that the temperatures, the energy in the atmosphere isn't going to evaporate water on the ground, puddles and soils and so on. It's more available to heat the air. And that can have a positive feedback on subsequent heat waves. So if you get a heat wave that causes more evaporation because of the higher temperatures, then the next heat wave that comes along, you get a more rapid rise in temperatures. And of course, we had already dry soils and dry grounds at the start of summer following the exceptional spring that we had.
Yeah, sixth driest spring on record, and then, yeah, heat wave after heat wave, and so it's just dried and dried and dried. So yeah, no wonder that we did see a number of them, but we do have some pretty wet weather now to come as we go through this weekend.
We do, and lots of questions on the thunderstorms. Why are we getting these thunderstorms? Will we get thunderstorms in my location? Should we take a look?
Yeah, let's head to the screen. Seems like a good time now to talk about the unsettled weather that is coming our way. Let's get up the UK map, because I think this will help tell the story. If I run through what's happening through the rest of today, first of all, and as I already mentioned, we do have some hefty thunderstorms across eastern parts of England. They're actually going to ease and die out temporarily, but then we have some more thundery showers coming up from the south. And if I just show us our satellite and radar quickly, just for the last couple of hours, and actually if I try and get to the very end of where we have data, and if I move down, you can already see a few showers developing over parts of France, and these are going to intensify through the next few hours and then push their way northwards. But The big question is, where are we going to see the heavy thundery downpours? Where's most at risk of seeing that intense rain and seeing some impacts as a result? So if I just run through, and if I press play from the early hours of tomorrow morning, this is around 4 o'clock, and you can see that swathe of heavy thundery rain that's pushed up, developed over parts of France, and then is pushing its way northwards, and it's going to push into parts of southeast England, Kent, Sussex, across London, and then fringing into East Anglia. Worth bearing in mind, there are some showery bursts further north across parts of Scotland, northern England, and there could be some thunder mixed in, but it's this area in the southeast that we're watching most closely. Well, we're watching everywhere closely, but watching and most aware of in terms of the potential impacts. Further north, we're going to see that rain pushing its way in as we go through the day. So by the time that we get to 11, 12 o'clock, the more persistent, heavy thundery downpours will have started to clear away from the southeast. Instead, they'll be affecting parts of northern England, northeast England, and perhaps into eastern parts of Scotland as well. So some heavy rain. Now, in terms of warnings, we do have a couple out at the moment. Well, actually more than a couple, that's underplaying it a little bit. We have, I almost fell over there. We have, so a number of thunderstorm warnings down the eastern, or big thunderstorm warning down the eastern side of the country and into northwest England as well, across the Midlands. And this is valid for a large chunk of tomorrow. But then within that, we also have this amber warning. Now that's valid from 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow until 11 o'clock. And it's within this area, it talks of the potential for 60 to 100 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Now that is a lot of rain, and it could cause some major problems. And as we often see with thunderstorm warnings, there's also the risk of hail and the risk of frequent lightning and some gusty winds as well, which could cause some problems. The further north, I've already mentioned that there will be some heavy thundery rain pushing its way in, and that's going to become more widespread as we go through the day. Currently, we have a yellow warning there. It's definitely not out of the question that we might need to escalate that to an amber as we go through tonight, tomorrow morning perhaps, as we get a slightly better idea of just how heavy the rain is going to be and where we're going to see the highest rainfall totals in terms of the impacts. Now, the other thing that I wanted to highlight when it comes to the wet weather that we have coming through is it's slightly different to the thunderstorm warnings that we've had recently. Often with thunderstorm warnings, by their very nature, thunderstorms are often hit and miss, so they're showers bubbling up here and there, and they're quite difficult to pinpoint exactly where they're going to be, when they're going to develop, and so therefore where's most at risk. So we often have relatively large warning areas which cover lots of places through a relatively large period of time, and within that period anywhere's at risk, but no guarantee that you're going to see. You might not even see any rain, let alone some thunder and some impacts from the downpours. This one's a slightly different setup. There is a swathe of heavy rain that's pushing its way northwards, and it's within this rain that we have some thunder embedded. And as a result, that's why we've got the thunderstorm warning, because there could be some very heavy downpours, intense rainfall rates. Like I said, 60 to 100 millimetres in just a few hours isn't out of the question. And why is that important? Well, it's when you get that intense heavy rain over just a short period of time that we see surface water flash flooding. And so lots of people may be asking us and saying, well, why are you issuing rain warnings, thunderstorm warnings, when we've been calling out for so much rain recently? We've talked already how dry it's been through spring, through much of this summer. We've had a lot of dry weather. There are hosepipe bans, lots of places hoping, desperate for some rain. And now we have some, and now we're warning about it. Well, because this isn't the sort of rain that's necessarily that useful, because it's coming over such a short period of time. Now, if this rain, the totals, 60 to 100 millimetres were coming over a few days, then yes, that would be very helpful from a farmer's point of view, from lots of gardeners and in other respects as well. But because this intense rain is coming over such a short period of time, it's just going to hit the ground, which is relatively dry at the moment, or very dry in some places. It's not really going to get absorbed in by the ground. It's just going to wash off. It's going to go down into drains. Drains could then get blocked, could lead to some flooding in places. And so it's not going to be absorbed, taken in the way that lots of people need it to. So it's not going to be that useful to the farmers, even though there's going to be so much wet weather around. I had one other thing to bear. Oh, that was it. One other thing to note on that side of things is it is really going to be wet. So here I have the average July rainfall for the country indicated by various different colours. And if you look anywhere that is brown, their average rainfall for July is less than 100 millimetres. And you can see that's across much of the country, really, just Dartmoor, parts of Wales, western Scotland, and over the Lake District, parts of Cumbria as well. Elsewhere, most places, on average, in July, see less than 100 millimetres. Now, most places won't see more than 100 millimetres tomorrow, but it's possible. So some places, particularly towards the southeast then, are going to see in excess of their average monthly rainfall in just a few hours. And that's why we're warning for it, because it's likely to cause some impacts. But as I wanted to go on and discuss, it's not just in the southeast. The heavy thundery rain is going to, oh, I've gone too far. The heavy thundery rain is going to push its way northwards across many parts of the country, particularly up the eastern side, but also into northern England, later into eastern Scotland, where we have a rain warning out. And then that's not the end of the unsettled weather. That system pushes its way northwards, but as we go into the second day of the weekend, into Sunday, we have more wet weather coming in from the southwest. Southwestern parts likely to have a pretty wet day on Sunday, and just it's looking like a very messy day for many of us as we go through Sunday. By the afternoon, heavy, thundery, showery bursts developing across many places, so it is going to be pretty wet. Just the potential for some more persistent rain to affect parts of the southwest, and all the time also some more wet weather across parts of Scotland. With that in mind, I've briefly showed some of the warnings that we have, but I wanted to cover them again. So we do have a thunderstorm warning across some eastern, northeastern parts of England at the moment. Then later on today, we have, later on today, this little thunderstorm warning develops across parts of the southeast. That's ahead of the heavier, more thundery rain that's coming in as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning. And so from 4 o'clock, we see that amber warning start. And we then also have this yellow thunderstorm warning, which starts from midnight tonight across much of England, really just away from the southwest. And then we have a rain warning across eastern parts of Scotland, which continues through the end of Saturday and into Sunday. And then another rain warning across parts of the southwest on Sunday as well. So lots of wet weather to come, but like I said, not necessarily that useful for those who have been calling out for rain for such a long period of time.
Yeah, very good point about how the warnings are there because of the risk of impacts from a multitude of hazards, lightning, hail, and very heavy rainfall rates. And, you know, not the kind of rain that we want to occur. We want that kind of rainfall total to be spread out over several days, not just a few hours. A few people have been asking about supercells, hail, lightning as well. So just to answer a few of those quickly, yeah, there's a possibility of supercell thunderstorms occurring, particularly around that amber warning area or over northern France and coming towards the UK. How large could the hail get? Christian asks, and 2 to 4 centimetres, I think, generally, so large hail in not just the amber warning area, but also the northeast of England. So that earlier thunderstorm warning that we've got through today, there's the risk of hail there as well, and then the storms overnight. And someone was asked about pink lightning. Any chance of pink lightning? It's possible, but it's very rare. Basically, pink lightning occurs when you've got very specific atmospheric conditions to do with dust in the atmosphere or humidity that causes funny things to do with the light, refraction and so on, and lightning to change colour. But yeah.
We've got the humidity, but is there enough dust around with the heavy rain everywhere? That's probably washing things out. So I think my feeling is pink lightning's unlikely in this situation, but people asking about hail, yes, hail is a big risk. It's at this time of year when we get the largest hail in the UK because we have this warmth, we have all this energy, which is why we're seeing the heavy thundery rain having that embedded thunderstorm or those embedded thunderstorms within it. And so it's all that energy that leads to the motion of the hail going up and down within the clouds, and getting bigger and bigger until they're finally heavy enough to fall to the ground, which up until that point, the oomph, the updrafts would have been keeping them up in the air.
Yeah. And 2 questions about whether this could be a red thunderstorm warning. Someone asked last week about whether we'd ever issue a red thunderstorm warning. And it's tricky, isn't it? Because thunderstorms are, by their very nature, hit and miss, and you need very high confidence in very high impacts to issue a red thunderstorm warning. So, yeah, I mean, when you're looking at this setup, where you've got a highly populated part of the UK being hit by very high rainfall totals in a short space of time, it's no wonder that the Chiefs issued an amber warning. But by their very nature, thunderstorms are inherently uncertain. This feature is going to develop over northern France, so we're going to have to watch it carefully later today as it develops and starts to move north. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
So we're pretty confident there will be a swathe of wet weather across many places, but exactly, yeah, where we see the most intense downpours and therefore where we see those greatest impacts, where we see those highest rainfall figures, that's still a little bit uncertain because, yeah, as Aidan pointed out, they are hit and miss. It's worth bearing in mind that chances are we won't need to escalate to a red, but even if we don't, we do have the risk of these high impacts. So just be prepared that it is going to be very wet, could cause lots of problems if like avoiding travelling during this period of time, because the rain could suddenly become very heavy. So you may look out the window and be like, oh, it's raining, yeah, but it's not that bad. And then just a few minutes later, it will be torrential. So just be aware of that.
And an interesting one from Wild Violet edition. How many Chiefs do we have at the Met Office?
Oh, we're into double figures. If we include, so we have 2 chief levels. Traditionally, they were known as chief and deputy chief. Their job titles have changed a little bit, but I think it's easier to keep it with that definition. I want to say 8 or 9 chiefs, and then...
But not at the same time. It's
one chief.
One chief at a time, but of course they do shifts. They do 24/7. Christmas Day, every day of the year, every night of the year, there's one chief on. So it's not the same chief doing all those shifts. No. That's why we've got a number of them who work hard through the year and on our roster. And then we've got one chief in charge each day and each night of the year, and then a couple of deputy chiefs who look at other aspects of the forecast and so on. But yeah.
One chief, so the chief gives us the big guidance, briefs us at the beginning of the day, and they look at the next 36, 48 hours in the most detail. And then there's another deputy chief that looks slightly longer range, actually much longer range. They do everything from the next 3 to 5 days and beyond, so even the next 30 days and onwards. Then we often, particularly in a setup like we have today, we have another chief or deputy chief who'll be around observing the weather, nowcasting, watching, making sure things are developing in the correct way. And then we have global meteorologists, so a couple of chiefs looking at things across the world as well. So yeah, I think 5 usually on at any one time, but if you include chiefs and deputy chiefs, there's probably around 20 odd.
Yeah. We're all meteorologists, proper meteorologists, we presenters are, but you really have to know your stuff to be a chief. I mean, to get to that level, you really have to have a very high level of expertise. And every day I'm learning stuff from, the guidance unit upstairs.
Which is why it's great when we can have them join us, either for the deep dives or, it would be lovely if they came down for the Weather Studio Live, but unfortunately, just as we mentioned, on the days when we want them most are the days when they're busiest, so it doesn't tie in that well, unfortunately.
One final question before we get into the quiz. What's the difference between a yellow thunderstorm warning and an amber warning?
Well, when it comes to our warnings, we have our matrix. I'd love to show you it, but I don't have it prepared. But so our matrix, the higher the likelihood and the higher the impacts means the greater the colour. So you can have a low impact but high likelihood, and that might be amber, or you could have I can't remember which one I just said, but the alternative, and again that could be amber, or you have low and low and then your yellow layer. So you could have an amber warning one day where we have very high confidence of it happening, but the impacts are only medium, or another amber or another day where you have much lower confidence, but you have the potential for those higher impacts. And so that's why they can be different. depending on the setup. So it's usually worth checking out the matrix to work out exactly where we're at on it, to work out whether we're very confident about this happening or not, and that helps tell the story. So different warnings tell you different things. Depending on the weather type, usually plays a big part on the confidence levels. For example, with a thunderstorm warning, because they're hit and miss nature, confidence is usually just that little bit lower than with something such as wind, which we're usually a bit more confident about.
You never guess what? I've written a quiz for you.
No way!
Yeah.
You haven't. Do you think it's time for the quiz?
Yes, please. Okay, and you can play along as always at home. We're going to put the questions and the multiple choice answers in the chat, so you can fill in the poll in that chat, or you can just send us your answers. We'd love to hear how you're getting on in this quiz. This week, its theme is thunderstorms in July in the UK in the past. So July thunderstorms in the UK in the past. So we've gone back into the archives to look at some notable thunderstorms. I've written a quiz about them.
I've seen Al has put a comment, or AI has put a comment saying wrong answers only. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Make it interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wrong answers only.
Okay.
That increases my chances of three out of 4, doesn't it? So.
And if you are AI, you're not allowed to take part. It would be unfair. Okay. Question number 1. What caused the Great Darkness when thunderstorms hit the UK in July 1968? What caused the Great Darkness? Was it Saharan dust? Was it power cuts? Was it smog? Or was it flying ants?
1968.
1968, July 1968. Thunderstorms, what caused the Great Darkness?
Could you say the options again?
Saharan dust, power cuts, smog, or flying ants?
I think flying ants is pushing it a little bit, especially because they don't like to fly on days when it's going to be wet. Did you say there was a thunderstorm?
There were thunderstorms at the time.
I mean, I proved last time we did a Weather Studio Live together that my flying ants knowledge was lacking, because I claimed they weren't flying that day when it turns out they were. But I'm going to rule out that one.
Okay.
Could be the dust, I guess, but we don't really used to talk about that so much. So my feeling it's one of the other two. I'm going to go with B.
You're going with B. That was power cuts.
Yeah, I'm going to send you my answers.
Lots of different answers in the chat. Universal Cat has gone with ants. And logically, power cuts seems most likely, says Ruth O'Hare. She agrees with you.
Yeah, Ruth, you and me, we got it together.
But Martin Baines says power cuts unlikely in July. He reckons it's smog. Interesting. I'm feeling that.
Smog.
Oh, here we go. We've got. It's
poll.
Evenly split. 107 votes. Saharan dust is the most popular, 30%. Then power cuts, 28%. Flying ants, 24%. Smog, less popular. Interesting. Well, we'll find out.
Well, we will
soon
find out, I hope.
Who is right and who is wrong. Okay, question number 2. On average, July, this is an easy one because it's two possible answers.
Oh, okay, great.
On average, July is the month with the most thunderstorms in the UK. Is that true or false?
Ooh.
On average.
You'd imagine it's either July or August, wouldn't you? I'm going to say false.
False? You're going with false? Okay. You think it might be August? Bonus point if you can guess the correct month as well.
Oh, that suggests it's not August. Huh. Go figure.
True or false?
But
lots of people saying false. Andrew Jones-Maguire, Neil Bennett.
If you're saying bonus point if you can guess the month,
it might be July. You get a bonus point. Yeah.
It implies it's not because if you then say, "Oh, the answer is true," and you're like, "Oh, well, I'll get a bonus point. It's July."
All right, Mr. Smarty Pants.
I'm glad, but I said false before you said that. I don't want
You
anyone
did.
claiming I was cheating or
You
taking
did.
away my
Okay.
scores away from me this
Question number 3. What was the reported diameter of hailstones during the July 17th, 1697 bowling ball hailstorm in Bedfordshire? So, there's a famous hailstone known as the bowling ball hailstone in Bedfordshire in 1697. But what was the diameter of the hailstones?
Okay,
Was it
sorry.
14 millimetres, 40 millimetres, 140 millimetres, or 400 millimetres?
I was expecting it in centimetres, so you threw me. So
Want
I
me to
have
give
to
you those in
No,
just
no,
divide
but-
it by 10.
Yeah, I could do it. So say that again. So it's not the first one.
Okay, 14 millimetres or
That
1.4
well-known
centimetres.
big bowling ball, 14 millimetres.
Was it 40 millimetres? That's 4 centimetres.
No.
140 millimetres, that's 14
you're getting
centimetres. This is
there.
the diameter. Or 400 millimetres, that's 40 centimetre.
I'm pretty sure it's D, because that's why it's so famous, because it was ages ago. But because 440, I feel we've had that not that long ago. I mean, you get it in America anyway. So, I mean, 14 centimetres is big. You wouldn't want that hitting you. But I think people exaggerated size in the past. So we'll go with D, 400.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's difficult to know whether these sizes are accurate as reported in 1697. Interesting how they verified that. Okay, question number 4. On July the 18th, 1955, a thunderstorm over Martinstown, Dorset, set a record in the UK for A, the highest number of lightning strikes in 1 hour, B, the longest continuous thunderclap ever recorded, C, the highest daily rainfall total ever recorded in the UK, or D, the most hailstones collected in a single square metre.
You're going to have to give me the answers again, because thunderclap is a term that my wife and I use for tooting, like, you know, passing wind. And so then when you just said for the longest thunderclap, that's all I had in my mind. I was like, I don't think that's it. Could you say the answers again, please?
Okay, so it's 1955, July the 18th. Oh, it's today. Back in 1955, so that's exactly 70 years ago. On today, a thunderstorm over Martinstown, Dorset set a UK record for highest number of lightning strikes in 1 hour. Longest continuous thunder recorded.
Thunderclap.
The highest daily rainfall total ever recorded in the UK, or the most hailstones collected in a single square metre.
So I'm going to go with C, mainly because I don't even know if we keep the data for the other 3. Well, we probably have the lightning one now, but did we have it in the 50s? And I don't think we record the longest thunderclap. If we do, well. And then the hail one, I don't think we record that either, do we?
Martin Baines agrees with you. And Cakes and Creams Berries says, what are you playing on your laptops? We're not watching a movie here. We're watching the live so that we can see what people are writing in the chat. Okay. Oh, the poll has come in. More of you went with the lightning strikes answer than anyone else. 46%, 28% with the highest daily rainfall total. Interesting. So, quite a few people said A. That was the lightning strikes one. Yeah. Final question. The thunderstorm that occurred in Wokingham on the 9th of July 1959 was the first what? A, to be studied with a weather balloon. B, to be defined as a supercell. C, to be spotted on a Doppler radar. Or D, to be named. So it was a pioneer, this thunderstorm in Wokingham on the 9th of July 1959. But what was it a pioneer of? Thunderstorms studied with weather balloons, supercells, or the definition of a supercell, spotted on a Doppler radar, or the first thunderstorm to be named.
I'm going to go with A.
What one was that?
The weather balloon.
Weather
one.
balloon, first to be studied with a weather balloon.
Yeah.
Okay, good guess. lots of different answers in the chat. Zilog Gaming has gone with radar. Nathan Allen has asked, what is a supercell? Rob Holden said C, which I think was the radar. Christian Proto has gone with supercell. Universal Cat has said it was called Dave. The thunderstorm that occurred in Wokingham on the 9th of July. More of you said Doppler radar than everyone else, 36%.
That was my second choice, so I'll get half a point if that was right.
Admittedly, quite a tricky quiz, I think, in retrospect this week.
Oh gosh, have I got 0?
Judging by your answers and what other people have said, I don't think there's going to be many high scores. So apologies. I'll try and make it easier next time. It was difficult to find questions on that theme of July thunderstorms that have happened in the past in the UK. That's why it's been tricky. So, yeah, how do you think you got on? Do you think you got all 5?
Well, I don't think I got 5 anymore.
No, I'm afraid you didn't get 5.
Not to worry.
Or close to it. I just saw a funny comment. Someone said that we are liaising with our 9 chiefs on the laptops. Yeah, we're doing a bit of that as well, telling us what to say. Okay, here are the answers. What caused the Great Darkness when thunderstorms hit the UK in July 1968? What did you say?
I said power cuts.
Power cuts, good guess. Not correct, I'm afraid.
Smog.
It was Saharan dust.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so this was, look it up. July thunderstorms, 1968. It's fascinating. Whole Wikipedia page on it. Sounded crazy. The hail, the rain, and this darkness that occurred as a result of this layer of Saharan dust that got wafted north from Algeria, travelled all the way across Europe, but didn't get rained out. It travelled over dry air, and so it ended up over the top of the UK, still intact as this thick layer of Saharan dust. And then that hot air collided with cold, wet air that was coming in from the Atlantic, and you got this area of just terrifyingly intense thunderstorms with all sorts of hail, some very large hail reported at Cardiff Airport, for example, some torrential rain, flooding, and this darkness in the middle of the day with cumulonimbus clouds that were stuffed full of Saharan dust. So yeah, must have been quite the thunderstorm to watch. Okay, apologies for that. I think not many people got that correct.
We're alike.
So you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least I went down with lots of people.
Question 2. On average, July is the month with the most number of thunderstorms in the UK. You said
false.
False. You are correct with that one.
Yay! I got one.
Yeah.
At least it's not
The
duck.
2 months that are joint first, May and June. Thunderstorms, but only marginally higher than July and August.
Okay.
The numbers are quite small, and on average across the UK, how many thunder days do you get? Looking at the 30-year average, 1961 to 1990, it's for July, 1.3, I think, and for June and May it was 1.4, something like that.
Okay,
So, like
so really close.
There's a 0.1 difference. Yeah.
I suppose maybe during the May, June months, you have more frequent, less intense ones. Do you think?
Possibly.
Yeah, I'm going to go with yeah. Cool.
So
okay,
you got
no
one
bonus
there.
point either.
What was the reported diameter of hailstones during the July 17th, 1697 bowling ball hailstone storm in Bedfordshire? 14 mils, 40 mils, 140 millimetres or 400 mils. This is the diameter, and congratulations if you went with C, 140 millimetres. You went with 400, didn't you?
Yeah, a bit big.
Pretty big.
That's why they're talking about it hundreds of years later.
Yeah. It was about that circumference. So the circumference was just over a foot, just over 30.
Okay.
That's 33, 34 centimetres for the circumference. So these are, proper large hailstones. And there were unverified reports of a circumference of around 600 millimetres. But if verified, that would be the largest hailstone anywhere on the planet ever. But that's unverified. So the official report from this hailstorm was between 110 and 140 millimetres diameter. Question number 4. July the 18th, 1955, a thunderstorm over Martinstown, Dorset set a UK record for lightning strikes in 1 hour, longest continuous thunder recorded, highest daily rainfall, and the most hailstones collected.
I went with C.
Highest rainfall?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. 279 millimetres recorded in a single day. So that's the UK record highest daily rainfall. And that was in a little blog that was released by the Met Office this week. So, yeah, well done if you read that and paid attention. The thunderstorm, question 5, that occurred in Wokingham on the 9th of July 1959 was the first A, to be studied with a weather balloon, B, to be defined as a supercell, C, to be spotted on Doppler radar, or D, to be named. Now, most people went with Doppler radar, including you.
No, I went with A.
A, studied with a weather balloon. Both incorrect, I'm afraid. It was the first to be defined as a supercell. The first supercell to be defined anywhere in the UK, because...
Just in the UK or anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world,
okay.
Yeah. Keith Browning and Frank Ludlam in 1962 studied supercells and defined what the characteristics and structure of supercells were, and they identified this Wokingham storm in England in 1959 as a supercell. So it was the first one to be defined as a supercell.
Thanks very much, Hayden. That was really interesting. I actually learned quite a lot in that quiz.
You got 2?
Yeah, 2.
Respectable. I think that's probably what a lot of people got. Yeah, Jill Swift, 1 out of 5. Chazandolf C. Chazando LFC got 4 out of 5.
I saw Chegany got 5 out of 5.
Wow.
I can't
impressive.
see it anymore, but I'm sure I saw that. It was the first one I saw when I clicked on. I was like, all right, thanks for making me feel bad. But
Universal Cat said 3 out of 5. Poor effort. It was not as poor as Alex.
so really good effort.
And he's a meteorologist.
Really good effort.
Eagle-eyed DJI did Dan Holly set the questions. He's a total pro about storms. Yeah, he is.
He's a storm chaser.
Proper experts. Would be intrigued to find out what he'd get in that quiz, actually.
Wow.
5 out of 5.
We can go upstairs and ask him.
Is there a chance of thunder in Eastbourne over the next 24 hours? We always seem to miss out. Or there is a chance.
Yeah, significant chance. Yeah, well within the zone as we go through tomorrow, tonight and tomorrow. So yeah, definitely a risk.
But yeah, thank you for all of your contributions to the quiz there and your questions. But just before we wrap up, a reminder, obviously we've got those warnings in effect, so do watch out for those. Stay up to date with the Met Office YouTube channel with our presented forecasts, and of course the Met Office Weather Warnings webpage. You can find much more information there about what to expect and how to stay safe in thunderstorms and so on. And the main cause for concern is the high rainfall totals we're expecting in many parts of the UK over the next few days. You can also stay up to date with the Met Office on Spotify. It's worth mentioning. We are on Spotify now, so if you're on Spotify, then do check us out. It's where this live goes on Spotify after it's been recorded, so you can catch up there. If you're just tuning in now, you can watch the full episode on Spotify later on, as well as YouTube. Follow us on both YouTube and Spotify is my recommendation, and then you'll never miss one of these forecasts. And speaking of YouTube, tomorrow we've got the AMOC video.
The big AMOC video that you've been teasing us for the last 45 minutes. Are we going to get that tease now?
Oh, I hope so.
If the AMOC was to weaken dramatically over the next few decades, we would see an end to the warming that we've been seeing over the UK, and likely an actual cooling, particularly in terms of winter temperatures. We'd also see an increase in winter storms, with increased wind speeds and maybe extreme precipitation events over the western coast.
So do you think that the climate models might be underestimating the scale of the changes to the AMOC? Do the climate models factor this in when they're making projections for global warming in the future? We get questions all the time about AMOC and Gulf Stream. You might know it as the Gulf Stream, and you know, it's good to be able to finally put together a video using the experts that we've got here at the Met Office and looking at the latest scientific research behind the AMOC and answer a lot of the questions we get on a routine basis. So yeah, watch out for that. That's going to be on our YouTube channel this weekend.
Yeah, really looking forward to watching that. Thank you again to everyone who sent in the questions. I hope you enjoyed the quiz. I did. Well done. I think that's pretty much all we've got time for today. Like Aidan's already pointed out, heavy thundery rain is a risk for many of us. Do stay safe. Keep up to date with the warnings. They are going to be changing. These are the type of warnings that we have to keep constantly on top of. So they are going to get updated as we go through the event. We will be back next week. I think it's you and me again, but we're switching positions. So I will
Get your own back.
I will be. Well, I'm hoping to be able to create a quiz as insightful as your one was. So we'll see how things work out. And but otherwise, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.